Hello, and welcome to the Thyroid Warrior podcast. I'm Ebony, and I'm here as your wellness facilitator. I'm going to be sharing my experiences in managing Hashimoto's disease, and I really hope that it'll help you on your personal journey. Keep in mind, however, this does not substitute as medical advice. It is only for your information and motivational purposes only. Now, let's get started. Hello, friends. I am very much so ready to jump in to talk about the more policy-heavy slash other terms that you've probably heard thrown around here or there, whether it was online or at the doctor's office or on social media. So we just got to get to the meat and potatoes but I really want to give you the basic definition of what advocacy is. And according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, advocacy is the act or process of supporting a cause or proposal, the act or process of advocating something. Now, if you follow me on social media at Joyful Ebony, you know that my profile says Thyroid Health Advocate. And that is very much so what I am all about. And it can also be translated into other areas, from women's health to mental health to Black women's health. Those are a lot of things that are important to me, but at the core, it will always be about thyroid health. And I will fight tooth and nail about this very cause because it has really and truly changed the way that I see my life. It has changed the way that I interact with the healthcare system. And it has also changed how I support my loved ones. And one thing that I'm very excited to announce today on the podcast, it is a very special moment. My dad is now cancer-free. Oh my gosh. So I just wanted to share that little piece of joy with you all. And one of the sweetest conversations that we have had is that he told me, I still can't believe it. And if you have a loved one or your loved one has passed away, my heart goes out to you in terms of that person battling cancer, because it is unlike anything you will ever go through or experience on the side of looking or living with or being around someone that is struggling with it. It is one of the hardest things I have had to go through because I couldn't do anything to help. But it has also been challenging as well because my mind often goes to, what if I wouldn't have pressed? Did I ask the right questions? How can I support him? How can I support my family? Can I do more? Should I be doing more? How can I do more when I'm not even in the same space? And my mother just had surgery on Monday, and again, the same questions kind of run through my mind. So it's been this constant roller coaster really for the last 3.5 years with my dad, and then having my mom having to go have this surgery. It was almost like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. And that's just me being very honest, because sometimes you feel like, dang, like, how can I be there for these people when I myself am struggling? And that is where the advocacy piece comes in as well. So let's just break this down and talk about it. So, the first thing is when it comes to advocacy, one thing that's very important to me is having gone through my health struggles and my health scares and the battles. There are some very fundamental things that I have learned that are very important in the overall process of being in the healthcare space. The first thing is you are always entitled to get a second opinion, sometimes a third, sometimes a fourth. The second thing that I have learned is while healthcare providers have had many years of experience, they have gone to school, they have learned, they have studied, they have interacted with many, many patients. They haven't lived in your body for as long as you have. And I'm not saying that you should be dismissive, you should be rude or difficult. And I really don't like using that word difficult, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you know yourself more than anyone else. And I want you to recognize that there is power in that. And the way that you really and truly operate in that power is you advocate for yourself. Make sure you're writing down your questions. Make sure you're paying attention to your lab values when they come in. Make sure that you're giving your medication time to work and that you aren't just sitting on the information that's been given to you by your provider. And I have many podcast episodes that walk you through how to find an endocrinologist, why it's important to take notes, and how to be a support system for someone that is also going through whatever illness or chronic condition, and how to really be there for them. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing is knowing how to take that time for yourself, knowing how to just take a step back and breathe. That is something that I personally struggle with. And especially when you're a high achiever and you're career focused, you're focused on getting good grades, you're focused on doing all the things, achieving all your dreams, traveling the world, and just being spontaneous and just out there. When your body is trying to give you signs and signals to slow down and you ignore them, it will very quickly say, nah, sis, you got to sit down. And that actually happened to me on Saturday. So those are the top three things that I would say are really important when it comes to advocating for yourself. And also, one thing that I personally have a struggle with is when people say, "Oh, you're a very difficult patient," or when I will casually say, "Oh, I will fire a doctor in a minute." And people look at me and they're like, oh, "How could you? You don't understand how hard they have." I do understand how hard they work. I work with very capable and amazing doctors. I have some incredible people on my care team for the most part. And I see how hard they have worked during the pandemic. And I, again, am not negating any of that. But there are certain providers in the healthcare system that do, in fact, need to work on that doctor-patient relationship. It is what it is. There are studies that outline the importance of patient communication. There are articles that have been written on the importance of patient communication, and that is something that I 100% agree with, and I will argue to the end of the world. That can be my hill to die on in terms of working through why that relationship and why that two-way communication is so important. Namely, because I, as a patient, don't want to turn to Dr. Google to solve my problems or to figure out why my hair is falling out. I want to be able to have that conversation with my doctor so that I can feel at ease and so that I'm not sending unnecessary messages to that person when they already have loads of documentation requirements that they have to fulfill that make it difficult for them to be with us as patients and be fully present with us. So I, again, 110% am not bashing doctors or healthcare providers at all. Just want to be clear about that. However, the next thing that I really and truly want to highlight in the advocacy arena is if you are a parent or a caregiver of someone that has a thyroid disease specifically, you have to be well versed in both hypo and hyper symptoms as well as the autoimmune components of it. And the reason why you want to be familiar with those things is because the person that you are trying to love on may exhibit symptoms of both, and they can have flare-ups where they are either hypo or underactive or hyper or overactive. And that's really important because when you present at the doctor or the ER or school or whatever, it's really important to have those symptoms documented so that you can be able to get the best care that is necessary at that time. And the other thing that's really important about advocating for yourself is understanding what your lab values mean for you. I get the whole, yeah, it's within normal limits. We don't have to worry. Well, I have to worry because that's just because it's normal doesn't mean that it's normal for me. So I know that for me personally, my TSH needs to be between 2 and 2.25 in order for me to feel my best. Right now it's double that because I am currently in a flare-up. But even with my antibodies, unfortunately, I am used to them being over 1,000. They should only be like 34 or something like that. They should not be as high as they are currently in me. So I recognize that. But unfortunately, that is my quote unquote normal. And I don't like it. I don't like the fact that I am used to operating like that. But it is what it is. So that is why you have to know what's normal for you. And let me tell you, when my thyroid antibodies, my TPO antibodies dropped to like 400, holy crap, I felt like I was on top of the world. Like I had all the energy. I had energy for days and I was eating and doing all the things and like slightly wired. It was wild. Like I felt like Wonder Woman. Not so much so anymore. But again, you learn how to manage with what you have. And the final thing that I want to say in today's episode about advocating for yourself is knowing when to push and when to fall back. So some battles aren't worth it. It's 10 times easier to say, you know what? Cool, note it, and walk away than to continue to push to get an answer, to get someone to do a lab draw for you or to have some testing done. Sometimes it's best to just say, okay, I'm just going to get up and excuse myself. Even when it comes to talking to loved ones and friends about weight gain or weight loss, that used to be a trigger for me for sure. And I absolutely 110% hated it when people used to comment about my weight or would say, oh, you don't have anything to worry about. You're skinny. So you'll never understand my issues as someone that is overweight. No, I won't. I don't understand. I'm not in your body. I don't have the same struggles that you do. I don't. But that's not to say that I can't empathize with you. And I can't that's not to say that I can't listen to you and I couldn't understand that it is problematic for you in whatever way that you choose to express it. I can be there to listen. I can be there to understand. But to say that in such a way that basically invalidates my experience in terms of what I am currently going through, and 20 to 30 pounds of additional weight for me cause a lot of issues with my joints. So even if you don't present the same way that someone else does, whether it's weight, whether it's symptoms, or even if you look like you're living on top of the mountain and someone else isn't, or they don't respond to medication the same way or supplements, it's not to say that anyone is wrong or anyone is a bad person. It's just our bodies are different. We hold things differently and we release things differently. So a part of advocating for yourself is knowing what's normal for you and making sure you have that documented so that when things change, when things fluctuate, when things shift, you can very easily learn how to identify what those things are, and you will be able to better articulate what you would like your next steps to be, and you can partner with your healthcare provider to make that happen. So those were the top things that I wanted to talk about today in terms of health advocacy, but we are definitely going to, for the next couple of weeks, be talking about advocacy, health literacy, social determinants of health, and we're digging deep. So get out your pens, get out your paper, not if you're driving, don't do that, that's not safe, but we're going to explore this a lot, especially because there are a lot of policy changes that are currently happening and a lot of shifts in healthcare. For example, one thing I could think about is trauma-based or trauma-informed care, and I want to talk about that too so that you can be able to identify why certain questions are being asked of you or why certain things are happening. So with that, be happy, be whole, and be well. Take care. Okay, thyroid warriors, get out there and take things one step at a time. Remember, reflect on your triumphs, know that you are doing your best, and do what you need to do in order to be well. I would absolutely love it if you subscribe to this podcast and share this episode with a friend. And don't forget, leave me a review. I read those and try very hard to improve the show based upon your feedback. So I'd love to hear from you. And with that, be happy, be whole, and be well. Take care.